That's the first time I've seen both of those pieces of paper.
Yep. Yep.
All right, let's do this thing. Amy takes care of all that.
Good evening, the hour being 7 PM on Monday, July 8th. I'd like to call to order the City of Laconia City Council meeting. Before we go any farther, though, I'd ask Councilor Haynes if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Councilor. We're joined by a recording secretary and city clerk, Katie Gargano. I'd ask her to please call the roll.
Counselor Cheney?
Here.
Counselor Susie?
Here.
Counselor Hoffman?
Present.
Counselor Haynes?
Here.
Counselor Bogert?
Here.
Counselor Felch?
Here.
Mayor Hosmer?
Present. We're also joined at council table this evening by Kirk Piatti, our city manager, and Glenn Smith, our finance director. Following along on our agenda, agenda item number 7A, which is the regular city council meeting minutes of June 24th, 2024. Minutes of the Laconia City Council meeting of June 24th were distributed to members of the city council on July 2nd. With no corrections or changes submitted to the clerk, the minutes will be accepted as distributed. Agenda item 9. This is an opportunity for citizens who'd like to make comments for matters not on the agenda to come forward and introduce yourself and say your piece. Would you like to speak to a matter not on the agenda? I would. Come forward then.
Good evening. I'm Wendy French. I've been a resident of downtown Laconia here for 7 years, and I grew up in Belmont. My concern tonight is parking for downtown residents. I've done some homework. I visited the police department, and they printed off the ordinances for me, which are pretty difficult to find as you search through the city website. I found the article of when Rusty McClure made an agreement for the residents of the condos above the Colonial. Apparently they are at the rate of $27 per month for the 9 spots. And I've spoken with my landlord. Tickets are being issued on a regular basis. The enforcement is confusing and not posted on any sign in the lots. It says 2-hour parking. There's an overnight ordinance posted, but nothing about the hours of enforcement, which I found out from the police exactly what that is. They were enforcing on the 4th of July, although holidays are supposed to be accepted or not enforced. So my question is, could you consider and discuss going forward some kind of fee charged to residents as a pass that we can put in our windows, not trying to claim any spots from the Beacon Street West lot, but some kind of pass that allows us to park where we live. I have a neighbor with a young baby, a neighbor that works overnight that needs to park during the day. We've used the garage, and the garage is not safe. The homeless presence continues to be pretty out of control in that staircase. They're trashing it, smoking, sleeping at all hours of the day and night. They are sleeping in the Rena Center entrance near my entrance to my building at 12 Pleasant. They're showering in the fountain. The police are aware of it, but they can't be everywhere all the time. So I don't feel safe walking from the garage, and I know someone who's had their tires slashed in there. We're just looking to pay a reasonable fee for parking. We're not asking for free parking or for even spots to get signs posted or labeled for us. But this moving every 2 hours, having to leave the lot and go to other spots, isn't really working for every resident as well as the owners of the businesses in the Beacon Street West area. So I know it's been considered before, but I'm asking for guidance and for it to continue being considered a fee for residents.
Thank you
Okay.
for taking time to speak. I haven't shared these thoughts with the city manager, and I meant to, but in light of the more active enforcement of 2-hour parking throughout the city, I think it's incumbent upon the city to better inform residents and businesses that during the off-season months, we'll say, the enforcement isn't particularly rigorous. Now we're in the summer months, and we clearly have some summer help that are out there, and that's their job. And we probably owed a heads up and a warning, either in the newspaper or something to do a little better job in informing people of that, and I wish we had. So I think what you're talking about is something that we haven't discussed, not on this makeup of the council, and I think it's a very fair question, a very fair proposal, and I will encourage it to be taken up by one of our subcommittees for further discussion, and that's not just pushing off your concerns, but I think it's a really good discussion to have, because I think you laid out a perfect case. People work overnight or have children. Some people, we know they don't want to use the parking garage for a number of reasons. It makes parking a little bit challenging. We know we have enough spaces downtown. The 2-hour, if someone's forced into a 2-hour space, though, I think that creates a bit of a challenge, and I'd like to see the council be a little more sensitive, or more sensitive to it moving forward.
Yes, and Wes Anderson has been great about communicating during snow removal. We get an email printed to all the tenants of when we need to relocate to the garage, and we've done that every time he's asked us to. So the communication has been great about that, but Public Works did give my landlord these passes, which say parking permit 12 Pleasant, which is only for overnight. And then when I asked Public Works for the hours of enforcement, they say midnight to 6:30 a.m. Here it says 9 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. And the information the police printed says till sunrise, which is a sketchy time, vague depending on time of year. So it's not clear at all when it's enforced. And I guess that's my request, is can you discuss some kind of fee that residents would gladly pay to be able to park where we live?
I think it's a good discussion point.
Okay.
So I will say yes. I will ask that this issue be taken up by Government Operations and Ordinances. Councilors Haynes, Felch, and Cheney. Your next meeting, if it can be an agenda item. And I think we should, it sounds good. I don't know how it would work, but maybe there's some other opinions to take on this. I just think you should take it up.
On Wednesday? We won't be able to get it on to Wednesdays, which is their next meeting, but they can discuss when a good time for them, their next follow-up one, and we can get it on that one.
Thank you, Captain. Much
welcome.
appreciated.
Anyone else here this evening like to speak to matters not on the agenda? Okay, seeing none. All right, we have agenda item 13, which is our public hearings. Agenda item 13A, resolution 2024-10, request to designate Prescott and Paugus Avenues as emergency lanes. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the June 12th, 2024 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:09 p.m. If there are people here in the chamber who would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. I'd like to keep all comments to under 3 minutes, though, and please try not to be repetitive if someone has already spoken to an issue. So always look to add something new.
Yes. Sean McGuire, 83 Prescott Ave. I think if you all raise your hands, people from Prescott Ave or Paugus Ave, there's quite a few of us that have gotten to this meeting. In the past, I've been kind of spearheading it, dealing with Wes, and we've had a few meetings. Some of you remember me from the last meeting that I was here. Henry's obviously missing, so we have a new guy. When we brought this up, we've been trying to remedy this for 10, 12 years. I've dealt with Paul Moynihan, Luke Powell, and now Wes. we don't want our street to change as it has been, what we considered a public street. Though, as the attorneys have told us, they say it's private. We're looking to remedy it. We would like to stay on the tax rolls, paying all the taxes that we pay, to continue to be treated as a city street. That comes with our trash pickup, our plowing and maintenance. I don't know if there's much else I can say other than a remedy is all I'm looking for. I'm told that, well, this RSA or this law has said this, you fit into this. Somebody didn't do something in 1976 and somebody should have read the paper then. It was and still is for the most part, a resort area. So a lot of these people aren't year-round. They don't have kids in the school systems. They're paying ridiculous taxes. Ridiculous only in the sense that their values are so high. They're paying a lot of taxes, and then now you're trying to take away the few services we do get. That said, I've been a resident there 60 years, paid taxes for 60 years, and now we have this resolution of why are we different? Well, we're different because we have a pumping station, a city pumping station on our street. We have city sewer down our street. We have a right-of-way or some sort of right-of-way that was taken on when the city built that. So they only want to plow and maintain the street to the pumping station, but not the other 2/3 of the street. We're just asking, if you're going to be down there anyway, can we somehow resolve this? We can't get 100% vote because the first third of the street doesn't want to vote yes on any type of, we're looking for the
Betterment.
as-is, the betterment for our, because it doesn't behoove them. They're going to get their services anyway. So we're kind of being discriminated against on the second 2/3 who have been there forever, not the condos. We're the homes that live at the end of the street. We're looking to see if there's some way to resolve this, and these laws and rules made by these bodies and people in Concord, they made these rules. I think we can alter them. The same people who make them can alter them. We're looking for somebody to give us a resolution to that. And I don't know if anybody else wants to say anything.
I'll say something. Yeah. Hi, everyone. Chris Neely, 89 Prescott Ave. So, yeah, I mean, to continue on what Sean said, we have a lot of single-family homes. It's a paved road. There's sewer there. I'm up all the time with my kids, summer, winter time. Trying to collect money to plow the street is just not gonna happen. It's all individual, single-family homes that it would create a big problem for emergency vehicles trying to get down the road, and I know that's part of what the proposal here is today. But even going forward beyond the 1 year, I mean, there's a lot of people that live on the road that need to get in and out. Who's gonna collect to actually do the plowing? Nobody's gonna do that. Some people aren't gonna pay. It's gonna be a disaster for the people that live on that road. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mark Hamill, 36 Pogus Ave. I personally have witnessed maintenance of that roadway, both those Prescott and Pogus Ave, since 1985. It has a sense and feel of a public way. I know it was never formally accepted by this city. We initially heard of this process in 2022. It was intimated that we could accept it as an as-is basis, and then apparently the rules had changed where the ownership was known. So that option was no longer available to us. And then originally we were told that the betterment process could be done by a simple majority, and apparently that rule has changed. I'm not really, to Sean's comment, it's difficult to get consensus. We can't even get replies to start this process. All I'm asking is, can we work, I'd like to think that this is not a process that's with the final goal of eliminating maintenance. I'd like to think that we could all work collaboratively to get something more productive than rules that are just simply unattainable. I just think the city and its taxpayers can come up with something more productive. Thank you.
Is there a particular rule that you find untenable that we could look at?
100%. It's just, again, we can't even get 100% replies. So it's, you know, and I have not seen evidence of any betterment process that's been done through this city. Prescott, I believe, was referenced in earlier meetings. I haven't found any records of liens or establishing any payment plan or anything. So if you could provide answers and examples of that, that'd be helpful. We're just looking for something workable. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council on this matter?
Mike Mignosa, 5'9".
Can you step, when you,
Wares.
hold on 1 second, come right up, now say your,
Okay,
introduce yourself.
Mike Mignosa, I'm the president of Holiday Bay Association
Thank you.
at 590 Wares. I guess I'm more curious about what the actual action that we're doing here. It looks like you're going to do an emergency, upgrade those streets, emergency basis, instead of what was previously talked about with the residents paying for the upgrades?
Well-
Question.
Yeah, sure. I don't have a specific answer because I don't think we've made up our mind yet. I think
Okay.
we're looking at both options.
Okay.
Clearly, the one.
Well, I guess my question is,
What would you like to have happen?
I would like for the city to upgrade it at no cost to the residents. We've been paying taxes over there, like the gentleman said. We get way less service than the average taxpayer.
How so? What are the services you're missing there that we could get better at?
Well, we're deed restricted that we can't have residency, so we're not sending any children to school. We don't get our trash picked up over there at our association. But that's not my concern. My concern is just that we didn't really want to pay to have the roads upgraded. And for us personally, it doesn't matter because we're before the road terminates and turns into dirt. So further up, you know, it's a dirt road that a lot of these people live on, and I can understand their concerns. Mostly they're concerned with, right now the town still does the plowing and the trash pickup. And there's been some talk about them discontinuing that because the road is substandard. Whatever you need to do to get it up to the standard where you continue to plow it, pick up the trash, and make the people that pay the same taxes as everyone else satisfied at minimum without charging the residents anymore would be the best option for everyone concerned.
Thank you very much for taking
Okay,
time to speak.
thank you.
Right up.
Hello, everyone. Gina McGuire, 83 Prescott Ave. Just wanting to make a comment about having had children in school and being a pretty big part of this community for all of my working life. All 4 of my children have gone to Laconia schools. I've worked for Laconia schools for almost 30 years. It makes me feel segregated from the rest of the community that all of the services that I've had previously that my children enjoy and have enjoyed and my family has grown accustomed to are going to be taken away. And I think one of the arguments has been that Laconia isn't responsible for paying for our services, but it seems that we are paying for services now that we can't access that we've always had. And so, having been someone who loves this community and loves what I've experienced in this community, this is really a sad commentary on what this says now, that we've done our part, we've put our kids through school here, and we're now going to be sort of discarded. I also don't know that you want the visual of having 119 residents garbage on Weirs Boulevard when it comes time for pickup. because we never had a bus come down our road. Our kids had to walk up to the top of the street for the bus. So that's where our garbage is going to go. And that's probably not a good look for Laconia. I'm just asking that you look at the fact that many people in this room have put their kids through the schools here and have worked in this community and have diligently paid for other services in this town, and we're just asking that we have the as-is in our favor. Unfortunately, we've heard different standards for how we have to comply to that, and the rules have changed several times. We were told we had to have 100% majority, and then we were told, no, we didn't have to have 100% majority, and then we were told another thing, and another thing, and another thing. This seems a little crazy to me. So I'm just asking that you respect that we've been productive members of this community, all of us, and we're looking to have our services maintained. Nothing more. We're not asking for anything more than we've ever had. We're just asking to have what we've always had. Having lived here for the last almost 40 years, seems like a hard time in my life to be having to think about this. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Ms. McGuire,
Yes.
are you under no deed restrictions in regards to students and enrolling students in public school here?
I don't
Is
think
the
I know what,
gentleman just,
I don't think I know what that means.
I'll speak to that. He's part of a condo association.
got you.
Single-family homes do not. So
Thank you.
our neighborhood
Thanks
does
for
have
clarifying
the
that, yeah.
option of sending our kids to school. But there's only, I think, 26 homes versus 100 and something resident. Most of them are seasonal, so there aren't many, but there are some down there.
Thank you
So
very much.
thank you for your time.
Anyone else like to speak to this matter? Council, if it's all right with you, once we close the public hearing, I'd like to pull agenda item 22A forward and keep working on this. That's okay. Seeing no one else would like to speak to this matter, I'd like to close the public hearing on agenda item 13A, Prescott and Paugus Avenues, at 7:22 PM. Jumping out of order, I'd like to bring forward agenda item 22A, which is the resolution 2024-10, request to designate Prescott and Paugus Avenues as emergency lanes. Burke, would you lead us through this briefly?
Sure. So we've worked with a number of the residents, a lot with Mr. and Mrs. McGuire on this. I can't speak to the changes that have gone back and forth, so I'm not sure, but interesting conversation to have there. There is a disagreement as to whether it's whether it's currently a public streets within there, or private. Councilor Felch has been involved with all these meetings with us as well. Our attorneys, as someone said, our attorneys are saying it's private, and we see where it says that, and then there's debate back and forth. So there's this back and forth. It's been very cordial back and forth, but it's been back and forth on trying to figure out if there's something that we're missing one way or the other. By requesting a emergency lane designation, what this would allow is no changes right now within what their services they're seeing. Essentially, nothing's going to change. They're not. If they didn't know this was happening and we enacted it, they would not see any changes. To give us more time, I know, like Sean said, it's been 10 to 12 years we've been working on this. What does 6 more months do a year? I get it, but it proverbially kicks it down the road a little bit, gives us a little more time to continue to work on this. Is anything going to change in that year? I can't answer that, but it would give us a little bit more time without taking away any services that they're doing right now. We've done this with other streets within the city, and we've come to an end point where maybe we've had resolution where it's gone in the favor of the residents as to exactly what they wanted, and we've had some go in the other way where nothing was able to change, and we went in that direction. But it gives us a little more time and legally allows us to continue to do services, plowing, street maintenance. We're not repaving it, but it's kind of that definition of emergency lane allows emergency services to get into all their all their residences. Yes, again, we're not repaving. We're trying to make it a little bit smoother. It's not perfect to be able to do that, but we're trying to. So that's what this by approving this, that's what that's allowing to do.
So what kills me about this, what kills me about this is that we in 2024 are cleaning up kind of a mess that was started 50, 60 years ago. And it never fails to go without noticing that somewhere along the line, either a developer or someone in the real estate business maybe wasn't completely forthright when they sold property to these folks. And maybe these folks had attorneys that didn't do complete due diligence to make sure they were completely aware of, they were on a private road and may be subject to losing public services at some point. But nonetheless, here we are, 2024, and I think about our tax rate. I think about the total valuation on both Prescott and Paugus Avenues, and I think we could probably do a pretty quick calculation as to how much all of those properties pay in taxes. And the idea that they're receiving less in services strikes me as not right, quite frankly. But I also, as we just did a budget, we're sensitive to this idea of taking on almost more than we can afford for the betterment process as well, because roads are incredibly expensive. So I guess if you were to ask me, I'm all for keeping this an emergency lane for another year, but I also think this can't go on ad infinitum with these people just sort of sitting in the breach, wondering, is it going to be next year or the year after that we lose some of the services? Meanwhile, they pay their taxes every single year, and they bump up a little bit every year. I just got to think there's an equitable way for us to figure this out and not cheat them on services that, my gosh, they're paying for. And it's expensive. It's getting more. It's expensive to live on the water anywhere. So I'm not pointing a finger at any of you by any means or the city at all, but if we take another year, we've got to make it seems to me we have to make a firm commitment to resolve this.
Yep.
And whether it's convoluted and onerous regulations or ordinances we have in the city that need to be readdressed, I don't know, but I like to start projects and finish projects, not just putting it on the back burner or putting it in the parking lot, as they say, and let it sit there for a year or two more. Anyway, that's my 2 cents, and correct me if I'm making some bad assumptions there.
No. And I think that, I think everything you said was correct. We're just, we're trying to make sure we stay on the legal side of what we're doing
I get
and help, and not lose any services. So
I get it.
that was what this was thrown in.
Counselor Susie.
The questions that I have are, the 100% betterment, is that a state statute or is that a city situation?
I don't see it under our RSA here. I think
No.
it's
It was city guidance.
council
from-
guidance requires 100% of
Right.
abutters agree to participate in the betterment process.
Right, but is that a city ordinance or is it?
City it's called
Where's the
council
rule come
guidance.
from?
Right, that was a council, whatever year it went into effect, that was their.
Okay, so
Not
this council could change that,
Correct.
okay?
Yep.
Then, okay, so this council could change that. Does that open up a legal mess, you might say, with the people who would vote?
Yeah,
They're doing against it, they're gonna say,
does.
I'm not in favor of this, but we have a majority vote.
it does, and we might have to defend it.
Okay, so
But
if
it's, and that's not particularly good, but at least gives us a fighting chance to resolve something here.
well, it's not just that. I'm not just talking about your roads, okay? We got the same problems in a lot of areas of the city, okay? Plantation, those areas, that's why I think we've worked with our planning department now. Somebody wants to put developments, we're talking about, they're gonna put up bonds and all. So if this happens again, we got some protection, okay? But I'd like to see us do something about changing that betterment rule. And then my next question comes to be, if we say, okay, so majority rules, we might have to come back to the people who live there and all and say, and we're gonna put this betterment program in place, and it might be over 10 years, 20 years, or something else like that. Better than doing nothing at all.
And then we have to prepare for the fact they may say, no, I'm not kicking into the betterment process. But nonetheless, I think it's the right thing to do for everybody else.
Okay, I wasn't sure if it was a city rule
Looks like
or
a city.
So,
So, and government ordinances, I think it's something we should consider, and does 100% acceptance of the abutters still makes sense? I don't have an answer, but it seems like it's a question that should be posed, and we ought to get a legal opinion on it, and we ought to decide whether we choose to keep this in as our guiding principle on this, or whether it needs to be amended. I just, you know, we're with these folks year after year, and I think it's, at some point, we just say, okay, enough, let's just.
He just wants to make us look at the whole thing, because it's not just these folks.
Absolutely, and it's gonna be expensive, as the person who sat there before you predicted many years ago, David Bound, said, this is a big situation, it's gonna be expensive.
Welcome to my ward.
Well, it's the only way you get to it.
So, right now, I guess if there's any consensus here, and you've all had an opportunity to take a look at the proposed motions, it's not the best resolution right now, but it's a resolution that gives us, to fulfill this request to square it away.
Yep.
Yes.
Just a point of clarification, if we vote for this, then we'll continue plowing and continue garbage pickup for some point in time?
As the,
Or-
This 1 year.
as the report indicates, that Public Works has been plowing these two roads to the city's current standards for maintaining emergency lanes. The city will not have any additional costs as a result of this declaration in maintaining that level of city services. Yes.
Thank you.
So would there be, let me work through the motions right now, all right? Right now, we're looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of Resolution 2024-10 in its entirety, to read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, we're looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-10 relative to declaring Prescott and Paugus Avenues as emergency lanes. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. And finally, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-10 relative to declaring Prescott and Paugus Avenues as emergency lanes until June 1st, 2025. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Cheney. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. I realize this may not be the most satisfactory outcome to all of you folks here. But it's time we address this and maybe made some tough decisions to correct it. So I appreciate you all coming out. I want to let you know that I think we all heard you loud and clear. We'll probably see you again a year from now, but I'd like to think a year from now we've made some progress, and that's my expectation of the counselors whose subcommittee and work groups it's gone to, okay?
Thank you.
Can I speak just for a second again, Sean McGuire? I think that's awesome, and if you guys are gonna work on this, and you would like my attendance, so I can at least give and I speak for quite a few people, but just to give you why we think our street's different than some of the others, I'd love to be involved.
I would encourage all of you as much to be involved, including you, Mr. McGuire, absolutely. Stay in contact with the city councilor, the city manager, and there'll be a public notice of this meeting and an agenda of what will be discussed. And,
This will all be done publicly.
Yeah.
These
Yeah.
conversations.
Yeah, no,
so-
but when you guys are discussing whether you do it the 51% to 100%, that all changed. I've been through all of them. I've sent out ballots, and then it changed in the middle of it. The council changed it from 50 majority to 100%. All those changes have happened while I've been working on this. So if you need some of my opinion,
You know where
again,
all the bodies are
you
buried.
guys have the guidance. You guys can do whatever you have to do. If we need to change a law or alter something, I'll give you our reasoning for it, and that's all. That's all I'm
I
saying.
appreciate that, and you're more than welcome to be here during this. I'm glad you're taking
We'll
part.
stay in touch.
Thank you.
Yep.
Let's go back to our
Thank you, everybody.
regular scheduled agenda here. Agenda item number 13B, which is, it's a public hearing for Resolution 2024-12 relative to approval of bonding to fund airport improvements. Notice of this public hearing is made available in the June 27th, 2024 edition of the Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up later on this evening under unfinished business. I'd like to open the public hearing at 7:35 PM. Anyone looking to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time. Seeing no one has come forward, I'd like to close the public hearing 30 seconds after I opened it, still at 7:35 PM. Since we have a couple of guests here who are paying attention, I hope this isn't driving you all crazy, but why don't we pull this one forward as well? I'd like to pull forward agenda item 22B right now in your packets. And Marv can get home at a reasonable hour. Agenda item 22B, under unfinished business. We've been through this a number of times, and Kirk or Glenn, would you like to walk us through this just a bit one more time, maybe from the 10,000-foot level, and get us poised for a vote?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've been working with the airport department on moving this project forward. As you remember, it's concerning some infrastructure improvements that will allow for better use or hangar construction on an unused railway, taxiway at the airport. We've kind of settled in on a $3.5 million bond. The airport authority, under its charter, is not allowed to borrow money, so that's where the city comes in to borrow on behalf of the airport. So this resolution will allow that process to move forward, and will give, with the passage, if it passes, would be to have this body give the Finance Committee the authority to review and accept bids from financial institutions. The bond bid, request for bids has already gone out. The deadline is Wednesday. We try to kind of like to have it set up for, in conjunction for a meeting. But with the holiday schedule and the banks being closed, we want to give them a few extra days. So if this does pass, we'll be ready to move forward and reach out to the Finance Committee on Wednesday to take the next step.
Thank you very much. Marv Everson is here. If you could come forward for just 1 second on this, just to, my request of you, at the last Airport Authority meeting, we didn't have a vote of the Airport Authority, some form of resolution holding the city of Laconia harmless of any debt here. You've got a letter.
I do. And it needs your signature and Kirk's signature.
Okay?
And it's assuming, and Kirk's already seen this, he's looked at it. There are 2 copies, one for me, one for the city to have.
Oh, that's terrific. I think that's as critically important to sort of, that we all know going forward that, you know, this is, the city of Laconia is doing what's been requested, but we're not liable for the any outstanding balance.
Correct. And that is
The
what
Airport
that
Authority.
letter of agreement says.
Right, okay. We'll make good on any debt owed to a bank in regards to a bond.
Yes.
All right. So we've got this right here. We'll make this part of the file, but I just wanted to assure the council, once again, and taxpayers, that our exposure, we don't have any exposure on this. This is the Airport Authority of debt.
Correct.
Okay. Any questions of the airport manager? Go right ahead.
Was that a memorandum of understanding that was just given?
Letter of
across?
agreement is what it is called.
Okay. Okay. There's a spot in there for your signature too, I hope. There should be.
I did not leave one, but I can. we can look at it.
I think it's important, so
I'll
it's,
send.
we understand, we both understand the terms of this arrangement, so I think it would be important to have your signature on it and make it an agenda item at the next Airport Authority meeting as well, okay?
Okay, and when those are signed by you and by Kirk, I can come pick them up and add my signature to them.
That'd be just grand. Thank you. Okay. All right. So, before us right now, we have a City manager recommends approving this resolution authorizing bonding for the purpose of funding airport improvements. We have a series of 3 motions, just like the last one. The first motion that we're looking for is move to waive a reading of this resolution and to read title only. So made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Next, looking for a motion to move a second reading of Resolution 2024-12 relative to approval of bonding to fund airport improvements. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative. That motion passes. Finally, on this matter, looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-12 relative to approval of bonding to fund airport improvements as presented. So made by Counselor Felch, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to pay attention, because who's in favor? 6 people, and that motion passes. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item number 13C. This is a request to operate and stage a seaplane between Weirs Docks and Weirs Beach. Notice of this public hearing was made available in the June 27, 2024 edition of Laconia Daily Sun, posted at Laconia City Hall, Laconia Community Center, Laconia Public Library, and the offices of the SAU. Action on this item may be taken up under unfinished business later on this evening. I'd like to open the public hearing on this matter at 7:41 p.m. If anyone would like to speak to this matter, now would be the appropriate time to come forward. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, City of Laconia. My name's T.R. Wood. That is my initials, my nickname. Like any good pilot, we have cool nicknames, but the business that I own and operate is Epic Seaplane Adventures. We've been operating for 4 years in the Lakes region area. Most recently this season, I've entered into a commercial agreement with the Weirs Beach Pier, and they've provided us a dock to come in and do scenic air tours and basically airplane rides. So what we found out operating there on our beginning of our season is things were going very, very well as far as operating the seaplane, takeoffs, landings, traffic, all of the things that come to mind. And the only limitation that we found operating at that spot was sitting at the dock for a repeated amount of time. And just like any good pilot, when we go from point A to point B, we always seek out an alternate position just in case something happens. So what I found out is sometimes conditions at the dock, especially because it's outside the no-wake zone in that spot, that the aircraft can take quite a beating sitting at the dock for quite some time. You have wakeboarders come by, 30, 40-foot people, boats going by, plowing, and the airplane can get quite a beating at the dock. So as we were operating there, I noticed a couple airplanes a couple times go over to the beach area, which is over at the very western side. I walked up and down the parkway and saw a couple of jet skis use that spot as well. So it's the beach area that is outside of the swim line. And it came to my understanding or an idea that I had. I was like, well, maybe when conditions don't permit us being at the dock, whether that's wind blowing us onto the dock. Sometimes if there's a stiff wind, it makes it difficult to get away from the dock so that the wings and tail of the aircraft might actually strike a portion of the building or the pier, and we're just not willing to take that risk. So in lieu of actually just terminating business altogether on that particular day during those conditions, I was asking the city of Laconia to consider us using that portion of the beach that has very limited use and no swimming protection. basically outside of the swim rope area, for us to be able to beach the airplane. Now, in full disclosure, we went over there, one of my pilots took the airplane over there thinking that it was okay to do that during conditions. And Parks and Rec came over and talked to us. And as a pilot and commercial operator, we are all about following the statutes, the regulations, all of the rules. So I come here today to, consider all the above, explore the idea of having a seaplane there. I don't believe that we would need any type of investment from the city to improve the area. The beach is quite a perfect little spot for the aircraft. All we would do is just heel it up, meaning back it up. And again, it would just be on a limited basis when conditions are too dangerous or unsafe to be over at the dock. So that's pretty much the idea. I'm open for any questions that you guys might have or anything further.
Sure, thank you. Counselor Susie.
Thank you. I see on the plan here, so the only time you're gonna park it there is when conditions keep you from using one of the other docks? Or is that gonna be where you're gonna operate from?
That would not be the intent to full-time operate from there. I will say this, and it's only just kind of spurred my imagination. When we are over at the pier, we are tucked in away from public view from the boardwalk. And when my pilots did go over there, and the one time that we did beach over there just to get out of the way, we had a countless line of people coming over who were very curious. So from a business perspective, that certainly got my attention. However, the agreement that we have over at to operate off the dock is on a reservation basis where we just take online.
Right, that's the Woonsocket Pier,
Yep.
pier, that's the big pier?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, is that city dock?
No, it's East Coast Flightcraft.
Right, it is.
That's East Coast Flight.
And that's why I came to you all, because I know that, it's a public beach and that it's
So
controlled by the
again, back to my
city.
original question.
Yep.
The only time you'd be parking there is if conditions were to the point you felt it unsafe to park at the dock.
Yes, sir, that's the intent, for sure.
And on here, there's Whiz Beach paddle boats, those are gone now, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you be refueling planes?
That is a consideration, for sure. Logistically, there needs to be some planning involved. So if there were repetitive tours off of the beach, we would certainly need to consider some type of refueling. If not, and it was just a one-time thing, then we can certainly accommodate 2 or 3 tours without refueling.
Do you have a plan in place for spillage? And what's the protocol look like if you have a spill there as far as containing it? And, it is right up against the swim line on the beach.
Yep. I don't think that the protocol, as far as regulation goes, is anything different than a boater that would be doing any type of fueling or refueling, such as East Coast Flightcraft has, a commercial sales of fuel. We wouldn't be dispensing fuel to the public or anything like that. So I don't think the restrictions or the regulations are anything different other than if someone were to bring a private, boat to the beach or a ski-doo or whatever and just dump in some fuel. Now, if we wanted to come up with a plan that, maybe we could get a remote fueling cell that's there with a hose pulled off of a platform or a trailer or something like that. I'm open for whatever is the safest without getting any type of environmental issue. But as far as being in proximity to the swimming area, I'm not a chemist or anything, but the public docks are right there with bilge pumps going into the water, and also the gas pump is in close proximity.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off.
Sure.
I will. There's significant distance, looking at the map here, between the swimming area and where East Coast Flightcraft refuels boats.
Right.
You're gonna be right up against it. So I would, you don't have to be a chemist, I don't think. I'm not trying to be flippant
No,
about it.
yeah, I'm
but
not either.
That's pretty close to the beach, where on a day like the 4th of July, it's packed with swimmers there. And it's also, you know, the city has put extraordinary efforts into making sure that beach has been rebuilt and is a source of pride. Not that you would detract from it just by your business. That's not my point.
No, I understand.
It's just that in the event of an accident or spillage, as well as the fact that if this is accurate, and if that's your blue circle,
Yep, it is.
it does sort of cut over into the swimming line area.
Well, it
It's
was.
a very narrow area for you to do business.
Sure, and maybe the picture doesn't depict very well because I drew it with my finger on my phone.
Maybe
So
so.
it's
Mayor, I have
it's
a-
not quite as accurate as it should be.
Fair enough.
Yeah, so,
One more question along the same lines. When you park your plane there, that's because it's too windy or something, but you wouldn't, why would you do any refueling there? Wouldn't all the refueling be done at the back of the main dock where there's a gas pump?
we do have a fueling situation there, so, I mean, your assumption is correct. However, the pilot in command at the time, at least from the way that I run the business, is allow my pilot to
That
make the decision at the time. If he thinks it's unsafe to be there, then we're not gonna be there. But certainly, could you get over to a spot and go fuel up and then come back in? Absolutely, and then, which is what I was alluding to before. So maybe we could do 2 tours, go over to a different spot. We have a fueling spot over in Pier 19, over at 19 Mile Bay, where you can just walk up and get gas there. So there is the opportunity there on a howling, windy day that, you know, we could do a couple of tours and go somewhere else, get gas, and then come back again. So, I mean, it's certainly a compromise that I'm willing to entertain.
I wouldn't, Mr. Mayor, all I would say is that I'm so sensitive to that beach, like we all are,
Yeah.
okay? Unless the fire department blessed it all the way through, no fueling there, that's all I say.
Yeah.
So, let me add a couple things. One thing, a seaplane, when it's on the water, it has to go by all boating regulations.
And
Nothing to
we
do
all
with.
understand that, I just
Right,
worry
right,
about
and
you.
I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to everybody. And I agree, there should be no refueling there. One of the things that was brought to my attention that I haven't even been able to talk to you about is that is where they launch kayaks for the city of Lacona, whoever wants to launch a kayak or a canoe or whatever, small boats that they can carry out there. So I would suggest that we could maybe put up a fence, 5, 10 feet, whatever it would take to leave that extra room for canoes and kayaks to still launch there, away from the beach. And there'd also be a fence keeping people from walking over into that area, which I'm sure you would have no problem doing.
I could just throw something in that we hadn't talked about either until it just kind of came up. I think if you're going to approve this, we would need to do a little bit more research on the distance from the beach it needs to be, not because of the safety. This is Land and Water Conservation Fund funded beach. So if, and it didn't come up until he started mentioning about people being there, and if we're gonna operate a business off of it, even if it's only part-time, that throws us into a really weird spot. Just docking and parking, so it's in a safe spot, is different than running the, you know, even a part-time business off of the beach area. So I just think that those two things need to be weighed. You know, if it's a safe place for him to dock away from the beach, and it's outside of the LWCF funded beach, that's for you guys to decide. if it's actually gonna be doing physical stuff on the beach and having patrons, and we just took us 2 years to get another project done for this, so it's gonna be a lot of work. So just a couple things to throw out there that didn't come up, and I apologize, but didn't really trigger until he's made a couple comments.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you for taking time.
I just have one thing to add that, I would ask the city to consider that if any decisions are made regarding the seaplane, that we apply the appropriate statute that's on the books to that. In other words, like what you were saying is that, if it's a statute that regulates a boat, then it could apply to us as well. And then the other comment that I have is, and maybe it's for a future meeting, but the history of that area, right, that literal specific spot is steep in seaplane history, with Bob Fogg operating there as a seaplane base since the 30s. And I encourage you all to look that up if you're unfamiliar with that. But I would be very happy to work with this group to possibly even come up with a proper seaplane dock, from an area that goes off to the side there. So Parks and Rec mentioned to me that they were happy if we were over on not on the sand, but over on the rocky side. So I'm also interested in exploring ideas, whatever you guys have to come up with to find a viable solution.
I think that would alleviate the problem that
Yep.
the city manager brought up as well.
I will say the public, at least the touch points that I've had, compared to other places, the city of Laconia and the population here has been very warm and welcoming to the idea of the seaplane. So I thank you for your time, and I appreciate it very much. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this matter during the public hearing? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing at 7:57 PM. I'd also like to do the same thing we've just done with the previous. Let's bring forward agenda item 22C. Look to the council or the city manager if there's a thought about what next steps look like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The question would be, do we not need to figure out the appropriate place for that to back in if we were to look at doing this? Where it would back in, not jeopardize our setback from the beach area?
I think if I may, I think the decision on whether or not you want them in that area and being able to park in bad weather out of the area, or out of the way in that area, is the yes, no. And then we can work with the ownership on exact locations and making sure we meet all of our requirements and their requirements. And I think we can do that based on your approval or denial.
Kirk, don't you think we would need first, you brought up the point that that beach, that area is still under some federal requirements?
I'm gonna leave that up to you, because I think we can work around it. If you guys really like this and want to make it happen, and we wanna be able to adjust it, it may adjust it out of the area that they're comfortable with and happy with and isn't gonna work. I don't know. I don't think it's a real wide swath after you get off the beach. But I think, again, it comes back to, if you like or approve this and want to see this move forward, I can take it from there and make sure we're hitting our needed measurements.
I feel very strongly I don't want to work around it. I want a firm answer. If we do this, do we jeopardize the funds that we've received? to
We
rebuild that
won't
beach?
put it on an area where we're not allowed to.
Yeah, I want to, I think if there's I don't want to jeopardize the work that we've done down there. If there is an option B that allows something to happen here that's far enough away from our beach and the council's comfortable with it, that's one thing. But,
Yeah, no, we won't jeopardize it, you know, we just, like I said, we just spent 2 years working through this on another project, and we're not gonna jump into a negativity, or a negative environment now.
And I think we also want to, really want to see an emergency plan in place if there is any sort of fuel spillage there or oil in the water, anything like that that may contaminate the swimming area. I just want to be, I don't, you know, you could see that, nothing against our media in attendance, but I don't want to see a story because of an unfortunate accident that all of a sudden we've contaminated Weirs Beach with fuel spillage or oil or something like that. I just want to be really careful with that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
please. Thank you. Also, I'm kind of concerned where we have hand-launched boats and and kayaks and stuff from that area. I would like to see it not hinder any of that continually to happen, that those people that use the beach and that have the same rights to continue using that area. Thank you.
Counselor Cheney?
I'd like to move to table this pending the answers to the questions.
There's a second by
You've raised.
Counselor Hoffman. Motion to table is non-debatable. All those in favor of tabling, would you like a roll call on that, Katie, or not?
No.
All those in favor of tabling, say aye or raise your hands. 5 opposed, 5-1 with Counselor Felch opposing. The item is tabled. Next steps are, it's the work of the city manager right now to get some clarity on some of the questions that we've posed, okay?
Yep, can do that.
Do you have enough information?
I do.
from us? Okay. All right. I don't have any presentations. I will move to the mayor's report right now, and there's one thing, and I'd like to share comments with, if it's all right, with Counselor Cheney, as we both experienced the loss of a great citizen of Laconia yesterday, and a friend of both of ours that was a pretty special person. John Gauthier, maybe the oldest resident of the city of Laconia, at 104 years old, passed away at St. Francis Nursing Home yesterday. John was a good friend for many years. His family is a good friend of myself and my family as well, having both grown up in the automotive business. John was the owner of Woodard's on Prescott Hill for a number of years. I had the opportunity to celebrate a number of birthdays with John. What made him so special is, one, he was a very kind and compassionate man. He was very interesting. He was a great conversationalist, and he was a real entrepreneur. John was born in Laconia 104 years ago. He celebrated his 104th birthday on June 30th. He and his sister Louise were raised by their grandparents, Pearlie and Josephine Cross. They lived on the shore of Lake Opeechee, and John spent his childhood swimming and skating in the lake. John graduated from Laconia High School in 1938, and from there went on to work for Pratt & Whitney. When John, after World War II, John chose to remain in the U.S. Air Force Reserves. And when he returned to Laconia, remained active in aviation affairs, serving 25 years as the treasurer of the Laconia Airport Authority. And with Don Vaughn, the airport manager, he established a commuter airline service between Laconia and Boston, which ran twice daily for a number of years. And spending time with John, learned the stories of him getting up and taking the 7 a.m. flight from Laconia to Boston. And I spoke with his son Alan today, and used to say his father was a bit mischievous. used to love to get the angle of the props just right so that you feel a good loud rumble going over the city of Laconia at 7 a.m., just to give everybody a wake-up call. In 1949, John began his automotive career when he went to work for Walter Woodard's car dealership. Within a few years, John and his wife, Catherine, managed to purchase the business. It remained in the family until 2001. During his time as an auto dealer, John became active in the Auto Dealers Association. He served on the board of directors as both member and chair. He was twice voted Time Magazine Quality Dealer of the Year for New Hampshire, which is a pretty big honor. He was the founding chair and driving force behind the establishment of the New Hampshire Auto Dealers Workers' Comp Trust, an insurance trust that now covers all association members. They became self-insured. It was highly successful. It was innovative at the time, and it took real guts to start it. Additionally, John Gothier served on the Board of Trustees and Finance Committee of the Congregational Church of Laconia, where he was still a member. He was the treasurer of the Laconia Industrial Development Corporation for many years, president of Union Cemetery Trust, a former corporator and trustee of Lakes Region General Hospital, and up until recently served as a senior director at the Bank of New Hampshire. John's wife, Catherine, died in 1988, in addition to his two children, Joanne, who's passed away, and Alan, who still lives in the city. He has 3 grandchildren, as well as 3 great-grandchildren. In 2000, we declared June 30th as John Gothier Day in the city. And I'm going to miss him. I'm going to miss attending his birthday parties and hearing stories. And he was a real, along with folks like Rod Dyer and Peter Karagianis, he was a real significant, integral part of this city as it transformed over the years. And my condolences, and I know I speak for the council, our condolences to John and his family. Councilor Cheney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Most may not know, my wife was very close to John. Was with him almost on a daily basis, and I became very fond of him for a lot of reasons, not the least of which he always said to my wife, "Poor Bruce." True story. John, in my mind, is the oldest World War II vet, certainly in the county, perhaps in the state, at 104. As the mayor suggested, he enlisted in the U.S. Army in 1942, went to OCS, became a second lieutenant, with the intention to fly in the then U.S. Army Air Corps. He became an instructor, pilot in the U.S. Army Air Corps, and by the end of the war, in fact, was flying jets. He became a reserve U.S. Air Force officer, retiring in 1980 at the rank of lieutenant colonel. He was perhaps noted or famous, depending on your point of view, for having been an early flyer under the Golden Gate Bridge. In 1972, John was instrumental in the effort to extend the Laconia Airport runway for larger aircrafts, and the airport today thrives largely because of his efforts. Others, but certainly his, were strong. And John was also one of those who was instrumental in creating the Laconia Industrial Park. And he started an aircraft-related class at the Voc Tech School here in Laconia. I mention those things to say that John was a special person, cantankerous at times, but a real contributor to this community. And I am stunned at anyone who can last to 104. And he did it with grace. That man got up every morning, dressed himself, took care of himself, right up to days before he died. But I think the fact that he was the oldest World War II vet deserves the most credit. All the other things are wonderful, but by the jeepers, to have survived this long and having seen World War II impresses me beyond my ability to really make it understandable. Poor Bruce. Thank you very much.
That will conclude my comments. Are there any council comments this evening? Counselor Felch.
That's a hard one to follow. But I do want to say that I had the hard decision of canceling our parade due to what looked like was going to be very bad weather with thunderstorms, etc. So the safety of people came first. I would have liked to have postponed it, but we don't have the manpower scheduled for another day. But I will also say Amy in Parks and Rec did a wonderful job moving the event to Sunday and still having the band, great band, by the way, great amount of vendors, and really nice fireworks. So, thank you.
Counselor Felch, I read the reviews, and awful lot of people wrote about the fireworks this year, so well done. Any other council comments?
If I might, Mr. Mayor. I have spoken to the manager with regards to the Airbnb issue, particularly on Lewis Street. He advised me that he will have a report for us in the very near future. I look forward to that. I would reiterate what I said 2 weeks ago, the Elm Street 106 traffic light. Sometimes 2 cars can get through, sometimes only one. Most of the time, dozens of cars can get through. I hope we can get the state to take a look. We have discussed here before, Mr. Mayor, looking for a public dock or a public place to launch boats. And I suspect it has sort of slipped, but I was hoping we could encourage the manager to renew his efforts to find a place to allow. I think every other town bordering Lake Winnipesaukee has a public boat ramp, to the best of my knowledge. We are the only one that doesn't. So I would hope we could look into that further. I have on my phone, if I had gotten it a little earlier, I would have shared it with all of you, but I have a picture in this parking lot over here, against the far end of the parking lot, where there is now a gas grill being used by the homeless, and they're camped out there in significant numbers a good portion of the time. Council may be aware that the U.S. Supreme Court has said we don't have to allow that sort of thing to continue, and I would ask that the Ordinance Committee consider changing or working on our ordinances so that we don't have to find gas grills and shopping carts parked overnight in a city parking lot. The U.S. Supreme Court says we're entitled to say that's not permissible. Finally, there are folks here tonight who want to discuss item, which one is it? 21A, which seeks to, is that 21A? Yes.
21A, yes.
The city to stop public work services to Janes Ave, except as is program. I'm not sure exactly what that all means, but I want to tell them and the council that I provided the manager tonight with a copy of a letter from a previous Public Works Director, in which he says, since we will be maintaining the road in the future, we must stay involved with the execution. The execution was the residents on that street and the city shared the cost of bringing the street or paving the street back in 1999. So, the manager has asked that he be given time to research that and see, excuse me, if that commitment is in fact enforceable. Maybe
Counselor,
that-
would you suggest that be tabled this evening until we've had, since this new evidence
I
has
would
come to
ask
light?
that it be tabled, but I would also ask that these folks be given just a minute to speak.
Sure.
They've come, and I'd like them to be able to speak, but I'd like them to know that we're working on a solution to that. I would also tell the council, I'm told that there's some confusion or some difficulty, but the one person, or the one organization that voted against making it a public street was allegedly, or is allegedly in a butter. But that property is listed as 46 Centenary Ave, not Jane Ave. And so I wonder if I understand they may have a little tiny bit of the street in their ownership, but whether they're entitled to put a kibosh to this whole thing when they're not even an addressee on that street. I'd ask the manager and the Public Works Director and our lawyers to look at that and see if we can't find a way to provide these people. Failing that, I would ask that this council at the next meeting consider making it an emergency lane until we can fix it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Counselor Susie, you're leaning in like you'd like to speak.
Yes, thank you very much for allowing me to do that. I wanted to just go along with Councilor Cheney's comments in reference to the, you might say the homeless and all this kind of stuff. I know it's a very sensitive and tough subject for all of us, but I would ask that it goes to the ordinance committee. They get the ordinance that was passed in Manchester, look at that along with our police chief and the city manager, and run through that and see, and present it back to the council. What can we do, or how do we help with all of this? Because I know it's gonna get a lot of vision by a lot of people, especially when we see everything up here.
So I will defer to the city manager on this. We have had an initial meeting with the chief of police, city manager, and myself to talk about this, and in reviewing city ordinances, which probably go back to
We believe that's all the way back to 75.
1975, we have ordinance in place that is quite similar to what Manchester has changed to. We think it goes back to 75, and the impetus for it was probably Motorcycle Week and camping along the side of the road.
Yes.
We remember those days.
I know, so we may, I think, I guess my point is, we may have all of the power of the ordinance already in place to address these issues. And, so,
Right, thank you.
I'm fine with that.
I'm happy to, I'm certainly, perhaps in the month of August, the chief of police can come in and maybe address the issue as well.
Yep.
And talk about what his approach is, if that's okay with you, just to let him know.
That'd be perfect for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I also just want to, I'm sorry, I just wanted to touch on, you all received today a draft of a letter to Commissioner Arlinghouse of the Department of Administrative Services that I drafted with Kirk's assistance in regards to the state school property. I won't ask you to read it and sign off on it now, but if you could, within the next 24 hours, read it, review it, offer some insights, edits. I'd like to have consensus as to the content of it and get it in his hands by midweek. In light of the fact that July 18th is the closing date for final bids on the state school property.
Mr. Mayor, if I might, I have read it. I think you alluded to it, but I wish you would put a little more emphasis on the fact that we have provided services for over 100 years to that property. And it certainly, I think, speaks to our right to be included. I just would like it more
I'm happy to offer those edits and for you to review and make sure it's good with you.
I'm sure what you come up with is fine.
No, I
but
want you to review it. Your input is important in this, and I'd appreciate your feedback. So, yeah, I'll work on it tomorrow and with Kirk and
Yep.
get it
Thank
in your
you.
hands, okay? Okay. Any committee reports or liaison reports this evening?
Nope.
Agenda item number 19 is citizens' request to comment on current agenda items. If there's a current agenda item you'd like to speak to, particularly those of you in regards to Centenary and, where were we?
Jane.
Janes Avenue, yeah, exactly. Now, if you'd like to speak to it, come on up and make your comments, and we'll make it part of the permanent record as we continue to work on this issue. Welcome.
My name is Peter Betcher, 20 Janes Avenue. I'm a full-time resident, me and 4 other people. I have in my possession some documents that I'd like you guys to review and a little statement. In 1999, the residents of Janes Ave in the city entered into a contract to pave Janes Ave.
What year, I'm sorry?
1999, and I do have the documentation according to that. Previously, after the rain, the city would have to come down with a grader, a loader, pull all the sand back. We had tons of sand going into the lake, so it's an environmental hazard. The city supplied engineering, surveying, and oversight. We provided all necessary storm drainage work to bring the storm drainage up to city standards. Okay? And we did all this required work in order for the city to maintain the roads in the future, per the letter that which you have here. As with any contract, there has to be a meeting of the minds. We had a meeting of the minds because we were paying money for a service. The city was also paying money to make it better for them. Okay, so we had a contract which stated that the city will maintain the road thereafter. We maintain the storm drainage system. I've been doing that for 25 years. In April 1999, the city council approved the contract. We have the minutes of that. That the residents would pay half and the city would also add the difference. To back up the point that the city feels this has been a city street all along, in September 26, 2016, the council made decisions about parking and signage on the streets Centenary Ave and other streets, including Janes Avenue. They posted signs, they said who can park where. The city, after checking with the city building department, they have issued all building permits for myself and my neighbors and variances on the street confirming that the building department feels that it's a city street. There's 4 full-time residents, one other one is ill, so he's not there right now. I looked at the redistricting maps of the city. In 2012, it showed Janes Ave as a street. In 2021, all of a sudden it's changed as a private street. Okay, how it got changed, don't know. I checked with the assessing department. The assessment department building values and taxes assessed as an accepted street. The city tax maps show the streets as accepted in 1999, map number 139. And other streets in that area, private. So everything that the city has done tells us it's a street. It's been approved by the council, and we feel that it should be approved again by the council. All we want you to do is to honor your contract. I can give you other paperwork if you need it.
If I may, I'll take whatever you have, because some of the stuff, like that letter we had tonight, is something we haven't seen. And it's, obviously it was written, we just haven't, I don't know why it was not filed or whatever, so we'll take whatever.
Oh, this was brought up.
Do you need a copy of it?
Those are your copies.
Okay, thank you.
I only made one set.
That's okay, thank you.
Those were brought up to other people in in the city government, and they just said, well, you guys they didn't have the right to do that.
No, we'll take it and, we'll take it and do the work.
Okay. Thank you for providing that information and taking time to not only write out a long meeting tonight, but also share your thoughts. And
You know, if you have any actually, I want to give this to him too. These are just my talking points.
Thank you.
But if you have any questions about it, we're more than willing to answer. We've been under this gun back and
is your
forth.
contact information, I'm sorry, is your phone number on that?
It will be.
I won't make you say it out loud. You got a pen, sir?
If I may, Mr. Mayor, for you folks from Jane Ave, it's my intent tonight to move to table this matter to another meeting. We will continue your services pending an opportunity to look at this stuff. We're not gonna,
Okay, because you are aware about the email that I received from the highway department, right?
I'm not.
They sent me an email telling me that they were going to discontinue my service.
but
Thank you very much.
we
Are
can
there any
agree that
questions?
that'll
I'm
continue.
glad that you said that, no. So your services, until this is decided by this council, should not be discontinued, and Kirk, I think that's
Yeah.
pretty
No, absolutely.
strong opinion of
Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much.
You have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks for reinforcing that, Bruce.
You
Come
wanna
right up.
do-
What'd you say, Bob?
I'm just gonna say that, but let's get it
I'll
done.
try to be brief, but sometimes my wife says I can't stop
3 minutes,
talking.
you're on the clock.
My name is John Sullivan. I'm a resident of 11 Janes Avenue. It was an old house. We had to tear it down because it was beyond reclamation. We built a new house with the plan on, long-term plan is to move there permanently. Right now, we have a place in Bangor, trying to sell, fixing it up so we can move here to be permanent residents. My parents bought that and closed the deed on September 9th of 1965. All these services that were the trash, the plowing, the fire protection, they've been there for almost 60 years. And what little research I've read, and especially in Hearst versus Plonsky, it's implied acceptance. It's already been accepted as a road because of the actions of the city. You can't, it would be inappropriate to just knock off and stop doing the services that we've been paying for at least 60 years. I'm not sure prior to that, but I know, because I was just a young boy, but they were picking up trash. Actually, right now, they're picking up trash twice a week during the summer to just wipe that out because of some obscure, obsolete ruling. The ruling should be changed. And I also have read something, I can't remember what article it was. It's as simple as the council saying, yes, we accept it. You can take a roll call vote and accept it, and that's my opinion.
You came in under 3 minutes. Thank you very much. I appreciate you taking time. Well done. Welcome.
My name's Robert and Jemmy. I own number 12 James Ave. I bought it as a young man on May 29th, 1980. Last May 29th is 45 years I've owned the building. It was a 3-season cottage, and subsequently, years later, I purchased a property on Washington Street. It was a 4-unit and a 3-unit on Messer Street. I sell real estate in Massachusetts. I've been doing it for 39 years. I'm now 65 years old. And I plan on moving up here. I sold my house last July. I ended up taking one of my vacant apartments on Washington Street and lived there over the winter while the property was being rehabbed. I just moved in recently. I'm still unpacking boxes. I had spoken to Wes Anderson regarding the situation. He told me it wasn't in the budget and we were not going to be able to receive any services for plowing or for snow removal. So all I can say to you is I'm asking you to give us a remedy and a resolution to do this, because if you think about it, there's 5 houses there. We're all winterized. We're all gonna be residents, or if we aren't already. And many of them have been there longer than the 42 years I have been there. And I think just as an issue of fairness, I'd like to please ask the council to consider continuing giving us those services. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay, why don't we pull under new business, item number 21A forward?
I'd like to move to table this.
Seconded by Counselor Susie. Non-debatable, all those in favor of tabling, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion is, that item is tabled. And Kirk, I think you've got plenty of information here from which to give us guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we
Thank
prepare
you.
for the next meeting. Okay, so it may be on the agenda for the next meeting. Keep your eyes open and see if we can't make sense of what you've all handed in. Thank you very much. Yes, I'm sorry, Counselor Susie, go ahead.
No, all I was gonna ask you to do is clarify, like you did on the previous one, to these people that we're not gonna stop any services.
Oh, we already did.
We already did, okay.
We have,
I thought,
we're not stopping services. Right? There'll be no plowing, okay? Otherwise, all the other services are intact.
Thank you, Mr.
Until the first snow. That's right. Thanks, I appreciate it. All right. 21A has now been tabled. City Manager's Report, item number 20.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll keep this as brief as I can for you tonight. The only document you have with you from me is the financial and operational trends report. Building construction permits, little down between the last 2 years, but not too bad comparatively. Busy month for the fire department through June. Some of that is obviously Motorcycle Week, but just you look at the dates where they were really busy. It was definitely a busy month all the way around. Our public assistance data, our welfare numbers, you look at this as a fiscal year numbers. We have budgeted $50,000 for FY24, spent almost 142. We did increase it only to 70,000 this year. We're going to certainly keep an eye on it. We hope it's a trend, not a trend. We hope it's a little bit of anomaly. I'm not convinced it's going to be, but we will keep an eye on it moving forward. And as we, hate to think we just passed a budget, but as we start preparing for subsequent budgets, we'll keep that in mind. Police department numbers, again, busy month. Like Motorcycle Week was involved in this, but if you look under their type of incident numbers, you see that they had quite a bit of incidences that they put under their disturbances and some of their other more critical incidents that they run. Property tax collection, you'll see it numbers, percentages down lower than what you would normally see. We have 70% of what we have billed in the July warrant has been collected. This number does not even run through the full June. This runs only until the 28th of June. So when you look at the last few days, you look at the very beginning of July. Last year at this point, we're at 82% collected. We would be about 80% right now if the numbers went out through the full month of June. So we are on pace of where we should expect to be at this point. Overtime numbers, although they were higher than we would like them to be, we do know, we've said this all along, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but a lot of it was in our understaffing, our vacancy rate rather, in a couple of our departments. Certainly as we're starting to see some of those fill up and be more full, these numbers will continue to go down. But again, even though these were a little bit high, we were able to manage it through the salary savings that we had in the regular salaries. So you don't plan to offset them, that isn't what you're trying to do. But they, when you do have vacancies, they often will be able to take care of some of the money that we had to spend in overtime. Our motor vehicle registration was higher than what we budgeted, so that was good. We had good last couple of months there. Parks and Rec facility use is up very high, actually the highest they've had in last 5 or 6 years. no grievances, no change to our impact fee revenues. We've, again, not to sound like a broken record, we try to spend that money. We've been coming to you with a lot of spending on it because we're trying to use that money, and we've been able to do that. We will have some changes to the reserve fund balances, just as we start to add back into it, but there's no major changes as of right now. Boat taxes finished right around where we did last year. Our general fund our expenditures are less than our revenues, so certainly that's a positive. We do, end of the year, we do have some outstanding expenditures that we're waiting on coming in from department heads. Just stuff that was already invoiced that we just haven't seen yet. We know that takes about a month to filter out, so those numbers will adjust a little bit, but they're pretty close to being accurate for the year. Accurate, but accurate for the end of the year. On the last page is the EMS billing history. We've talked a lot about this year. The total number of billable trips were down from last year, but the revenue collection was up higher. And with what you did for changes in the billing rates and some of those things that we adjusted with that, I think we're going to see, even if the total number of trips are down, we will start to see that offset the cost of managing the EMS side of the fire department. So, good things that what you guys approved to do, and again, we'll continue to see the balance due decrease as we start to see the June and May and April numbers revenue come in. So.
Kirk, can I put a request in? We see the public assistance data, and obviously we're, what do we budget for that? About.
Our budget is $50,000 in the current fiscal year that we're just ending.
Yeah, so I mean we're $91,000 over budget. I'm wondering if sometime in August we can get a presentation as to what mandates are we under when it comes to welfare? And, what goes into decisions as to who's eligible for what and how much they're paid out of the welfare fund, just so we all have a good understanding of why the welfare department does what it does.
Yep, we're within a couple years of updating. We've updated the welfare guidelines within the last couple of years, so we can put that together. And
Yeah.
basically, it's going to be a presentation of that, and you'll see what their guidance is and why they do what they do.
Yeah, and I think I'm also particularly interested in the role the RSAs play in it, that sort of act as some of the guiding principles when it comes to municipal obligations and welfare.
We can do that.
There's a lot that we are obligated to do.
There is.
So in some respects, when you're under these mandates at the state level, the amount of money that's going out in the welfare fund is kind of tough to control at times, I would think, right?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of options sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I think just sort of a briefing on that with some handouts would be greatly appreciated.
We'll do that. We'll work on that for August.
Thank you. Any questions of the city manager? Seeing none. Let's move on to new business. We have, we've tabled 21A. 21B, Resolution 2024-13, accept an award in the amount of $11,009 from the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant, JAG Grant, program for the purchase of ballistic helmets. In 2023, the city applied for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Grant, the JAG program, for grant funding to purchase ballistic helmets for patrol officers. The grant will allow each officer to be assigned a helmet properly adjusted and fitted to the officer for use during training and high-risk dangerous incidents. Public hearing of this was held on June 26, 2023 during the fiscal year 24 budget approval process. Acceptance of this award will enhance the safety of each of Laconia's patrol officers. There is no fiscal impact to the city. The entire cost of this equipment is covered under the program, and there is no local match requirement. Right now, I'm looking for a motion to move to approve Resolution 2024-13 relative to accepting an award in the amount of $11,009 from the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant Program for the purchase of ballistic helmets, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Haynes. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. At 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Item number 21C is a request from Social Club Creamery for outside seating. A request has been received from Cole Claude, owner of Social Club Creamery, for approval to place outdoor seating at their location at 51 Elm Street. They propose to put the outdoor seating in the 2 parking spots outside of their storefront as shown in the attached documents. Mr. Claude has received verbal confirmation from the property manager of 51 Elm Street property to allow the outside seating as proposed. The outdoor seating area would allow for a fenced-in area, 7 tables, 4 umbrellas, and 26 seats. So, Counselor Cheney's voice is ringing in my head. Mr. Claude has received verbal confirmation from the property manager. I think we'd all feel a little bit more comfortable if what was promised is reduced to writing, just to remove any concerns going forward if this were to boomerang back to the city council. Counselor Susie.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. I'd also wondered where, knowing that, it's a single lane going up through there, then behind that, how far out really is it within what you would call a safety situation?
That's an interesting question, and I think the city manager would like to talk about that.
Our intent is to keep it within the parking spot. One thing I would ask is that if you are looking at approving this, if you like it and are going to approve it, I would ask that one of the things, the fencing that they show in here, I'm not really convinced is safety enough. We're going to want to work with the owners of the social club. I always say it backwards on there for some reason. I want to make sure I said it right publicly. The Social Club Creamery, most likely something a little more substantial as far as safety goes. And I have had contact with them. They know that. So I'd like it as part of the motion if you want to accept this to work with me, and I'll work with our city departments to make sure that they have that taken care of.
To the next meeting and let him get on.
You know what I'd like to do? I'd like you to consider passing it and leaving it up to our city manager, the former fire chief, to make sure that he is satisfied with the safety precautions that have been taken. I don't know if it's a Jersey barrier thing, if
Most
that's too
likely,
much,
I think,
but I think we all have some concerns.
And the written
Yes.
approval by the,
And I can add,
I'm worried about insurance and all, and somebody,
Well,
that's why this Jersey barrier idea comes, a good idea too.
I can add to that.
Oh,
So during COVID, there was some areas that wanted outdoor seating. 405 was required to put the Jersey barriers in. So if we're gonna require it there, it needs to be required everywhere.
yeah.
so the 2 things are the barriers and the written proof that
Yes.
the management agrees.
So we can pass this contingent on you receiving written proof and working with the owners they've taken adequate precaution for safety. Comfortable with that?
Mr. Mayor, question I have, are these city parking spaces or are they private parking spaces?
They are city parking spots that we've already have an agreement with the owner of 51 Elm Street through a lease agreement on, they have control of them through a multi-year agreement.
They're leased.
So that they're
They're
leased
leased. It's
to
something we
them.
did last year.
So insurance-wise, we don't have to,
I'll confirm with Primex on it just to make sure our carrier, just to make sure there's no issue, but
okay.
that was on my list to do with
It's one
safety.
of the leased
Yep,
ones. So
yep.
we did determine that those parking spaces were
They're part of that
literally
agreement.
leased and they paid us
Yes,
for it.
correct. We did that last year.
Okay. Thank you.
We ready, you think, here? Okay, so right now I'd be looking for a motion to approve the request from Cole Claude, owner of Social Club Creamery, to place outdoor seating in 2 parking spots outside their storefront at their location at 51 Elm Street as proposed. Also, Gold Claw agrees to provide a written confirmation from the property manager that he may do so, and it's contingent on the city manager being satisfied that all safety precautions have been taken in creating this area.
Yes.
Counselor Felch?
Yep.
Counselor Cheney, second, you good with that? Any further discussion? You have enough from us?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. 6 votes in the affirmative, and that motion passes. We're gonna move on to 22, what did we do with 22C? Table it?
No, that was when we moved forward.
It was tabled.
We tabled it, right?
Oh, it was
Yep.
tabled, right.
So we're on to item number 22D. Kirk, you wanna lead us on that?
Sure. So this was, we've been having requests since the solid waste collection program went into place with the automated collection as to whether or not owners can get new second sets of cans. This is a project that's been going on between the council and subcommittees for a while now. But we believe the Public Works Subcommittee has done a lot of work on this and come up with the document that's in front of you. If you want additional containers, I won't read this whole thing, I'll hit a couple of highlights. It would be relegated to single-family homes, duplexes, and triplexes. And that would be based on what their legal occupancy is within the city. The properties who have already have the smaller containers wouldn't be getting multiple smaller containers. You would do a one-time purchase of the cans. The current cost of those right now is $63 for trash and a $68 for a recycling can. Then you would pay a yearly fee. It would total out to be, as of right now, for FY '25, $632 for if you have both sets of cans. And then we did do a little bit of a proration for trash or recycling if you only wanted one or the other. This is to make sure that we have all of our costs covered and the city's not losing any money on these additional cans. That's the 30,000-foot view of this. What we're requesting tonight is requesting to send this to a public hearing, give you a little bit more time to look at the numbers. And again, this went through the Public Works Subcommittee already.
Okay, so right now I'd be looking for a motion to move to waive a reading of ordinance 2024-194-5 in its entirety and read by title only, so made by Counselor Cheney, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Next, I'm looking for a motion to move a first reading of ordinance 2024-194-5 relative to providing additional solid waste containers to residential properties in the city of Laconia, so made by Counselor Hoffman, seconded by Counselor Susie. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate by raising your hand. 6 votes in the affirmative, that motion passes. Finally, looking for a motion to schedule a public hearing on July 22nd, 2024, during the regular city council meeting to gather public input prior to any action being taken. So made by Counselor Phelps, seconded by Counselor Hoffman. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'd ask the clerk to pay close attention. Who's voting in favor of this? All those in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. That's 6 votes in the affirmative. The motion passes. That concludes our agenda this evening. I don't have anything for non-public. I'd like to adjourn this city council meeting of July 8th, 2024 at 8:48 p.m.